Welcome to part 3 of our Farmland Access webinar. This part is on building a land access portfolio. My name is Brett Olson, and I work for Renewing the Countryside as a Farmland Access Navigator, and I'll get some contact information for you at the end of this show. I also want to thank the good folks at Compeer Financial for their support of this series, and we'll be talking with Sai Tao from Compeer later in the program. First, I want to go over the agenda for today's webinar. First, we're going to go over asset mapping, financial readiness. We'll get to know a couple of lenders and some possible funding sources and how to navigate that. And then we'll get into next steps and Q&A. We'll probably schedule a live Q&A later this fall and invite everyone who's gone through all 3 sessions to come to that. And then we'll answer specific questions that you have there. First of all, I want to get onto asset readiness. On the website for renewingthecountryside.org, there are some worksheets to download on keeping track of financial, personal, and technical assets so that they're all in one spot. It's kind of nice to get a quick view of what you've got going on. Specifically under financial asset readiness, we go into keeping your personal finances and your business finances separate. Of course, they're inextricable. They're going to impact each other, but keeping them separate so that when you go for a loan, the banker or lending officer will be able to clearly see what is happening in cash flow and profit and loss in the business outside of your own personal tax return. That would be more on the personal side and then the business side. So keep those separate. You know, it's a good way to keep track of things like depreciation and debt service, things like that. But second, and just as important, frankly, when you're looking for farmland, is to keep your personal contacts in one spot as well. This can be anyone from social networks to business acquaintances to just, you know, family, friends, things like that. I think in previous, we've told you that it's a good idea to tell everyone that you're looking for farmland. And when you have them written down, you kind of know who you told, and it's a good idea to keep that track. And then thirdly, do you have the technical assets that you're going to need for the type of farming you want to do? Have you done an internship? Have you been farming for a few years? And have you done specific coursework at conferences and things like that? Keeping track of that so you also feel confident that you have the necessary technical skills to operate your farm. I will go a little deeper into the financing here. Basically, what we're trying to do is get you to understand your farm finances and your personal finances to make sure that you understand exactly where you're at. It's very difficult to write a business plan and take to a lender if you don't have a pretty good handle on what those finances are. Number 2, understanding the cost of renting versus owning. You know, there's a way to build equity in farmland, but you really can't realize that equity unless you borrow against it or you sell that farmland. Sometimes renting actually creates better cash flow and can be a really great way to save up some money, at least in the first few years, in order so that you can purchase in the future. There's a bunch of different possibilities there that listed for conservation easement and co-ownership as ways to also get into owning farmland at a lower rate. Understanding those financing options, the USDA FSA direct farm ownership loans can loan up to $600,000, but can be combined with other financing options. For example, like Compeer, which is a farm credit agency, banks, traditional banks that are mostly rural based that have a pretty good understanding of financing farming and farmland. Then there's some non-traditional, Iroquois Valley, Dirt Capital, a couple others like that that are really farmer focused and can bridge a few years where you would lease from them and then slowly buy out their investment if that's what works best for you. Crowdfunding, gifting, that's a possibility. I see that happen more for equipment or for upgrades or things along those lines. But depending on your social network and your familiarity with that, could be a good way to go. Investors, there are debt and equity investors, people that want to share in part of that farming experience. That's kind of a little bit different in that there are some rules of corporate farmland ownership, and you have to make sure that you're following those. A revenue share, Reg A, the Jobs Act, is a way for people that are not accredited investors, if people with a significant wealth are allowed to invest in things. But now with Regulation A, more just regular people can find things that they like to invest in. This happens a lot with startup breweries and things like that. And then always there's the family loan. Some people have that access in their family and can work with that. And still stacking that with other financing sometimes is a great way to go. Quick primer on FSA. There's a regular financing, which is FSA alone for purchase prices under 600,000, joint with the bank. This especially happens if you go over 600,000, and they can, with regular financing from FSA, they can do a one-to-one equity loan, which is really nice. That means if the farm is $10, they can loan you $10. So that's a great advantage of working with them. It's a super long URL down there, but it's not difficult to find this under programs and services on the fsa.usda.gov website. These application forms that you see down the side here, really excellent way for you to also start to arrange and keep track of those finances, whether you go through FSA or a traditional bank. Some of these worksheets are excellent ways to build out basically a business plan and let them know what your experience has been. Understanding what you can afford is going to be really important, and you'll find that out once you start filling out those forms on the previous page, creating that historical gross and net income statement and a projected statement. That's basically the backbone of a business plan, and knowing how much you're going to have. Do you have other outstanding loans and debts? Do you have kids? Things along those lines, a car loan. But as you're getting all of these things together, it's always really important to get a hold of both the FSA office in your area and bankers in your area, wherever you're moving to. They're going to like to know who you are before you come in and ask for a loan. That's really a good idea for them to see that business plan in advance of you coming in with a property purchase in your hand, because it will just smooth things out and go faster. Make sure you talk about direct farm ownership loans with your FSA office. Wait and prepare. Like I just said, have all those materials prepared, but don't wait to talk to the FSA or your bank while you're waiting for property to show up that you want to buy or lease. You should have these documents ready. FSA will only loan based on a specific piece of property. So you've got about 45 days once you've submitted for that property for the guarantee on a loan to be good. So you're going to want to time that correctly. Mechanics of the loan: if you're borrowing less than 600,000, FSA can be the only lender. They can't release the funds in time for an auction usually, because you can't get it in front of them with enough times. In the past, it's taken a very, very long time to get FSA loans through. I've heard recently it isn't take nearly that long, but significantly longer than a bank generally approval time period. So keep that in mind, that you're going to have to wait for the feds to review all of your documents. So if you're borrowing more than 600,000, I told you before, you can stack that a bank loan with an FSA. If you do want to buy at auction, that relationship with the bank, if they know that you've been doing this work with FSA and FSA knows what's going on, the bank can often provide a bridge loan for that auction sale, knowing full well that FSA will come in and take over that loan. A lot of people believe that you have to be denied a bank loan in order to get FSA financing, and that's not exactly the way it works. Usually a bank will be a shorter term and a higher interest rate, and that can be difficult to finance under. That generally is considered enough to get you into FSA financing. So now I'm going to break, and we're going to have an interview with Sai Tao. And when we're done with that, I'll be back to talk to you. Welcome, folks. We're here to get a quick interview with Sai Tao from Compeer Financial. We talked a little bit about different financial tools for financing the purchase of a farm and thought that it'd be great to have Sai come on and explain a little bit about farm credit and Compeer. So welcome, Sai. Tell me a little bit about Compeer and what kind of products you have available for beginning farmers and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, again, my name is Sai Tao, and I work with Compare Financial Services, and we're part of the farm credit system. So there's about 68 associations across the country, and so we structure as a co-op. And what that means is that we're owned by the farmer and the rancher, which is a neat thing about our financial institution. So here at Compare, my colleague Paul Dittman and I oversee a program called Emerging Markets. So it was designed back in the merger 2017, there was like 3 associations came together and formed Compare. And so the program is designed to provide flexible lending to emerging markets farmer or beginning a farmer. So what we really focus on is the loans that we provide, grants, financial support to farmer. So basically we work with everything outside of conventional ag. So this could be operations such as fruits, vegetables, grass-fed beef to beekeeping for pollination, honey, aquaponics, value-added, organic, and more. Basically, everything that deals with direct to consumer and part of that whole local and regional food system.
So yeah, you offer both farmland purchase loans and operating loans, it sounds like, right?
That's correct, and including equipment and machinery loan as well. And so the centerpiece of the whole program is our micro loan, which is now up to 75,000 maximum. And so it's a very flexible underwriting process and quick turnaround. So basically all we need is a simple business plan with some financial statements, and basically that's it. We don't require tax returns. Like I said, our turnaround time is usually 1 to 2 days. Either Paul and myself approve it, and then our boss put a stamp on it. So it's good to go. So that's a tier 1, which is pretty neat. And then we still have a tier 2, which is designed basically for those who want to not only operating and intermediate term loans, but real estate. So those who want to buy farmland. So it has to be farmland. So this is our tier 2, and it goes up to $250,000. So basically, like I said, it's designed to help beginning farmer purchase farmland that is used in production for an ag product. So this could be pasture or fence with livestock, growing crops such as fruits and vegetable. The down payment is less than our conventional loan program. So for instance, the down payment is approximately 15% under this program in comparison to our conventional underwriting requirements of 25 to 35% down payment. And so this is like the biggest hurdle for beginning farmer to come up with that down payment. And so sometimes we would utilize FSA to get a guarantee. And then when we get a guarantee, our loan to value goes up. We can go up to like 90, 95%. So that means there's less down payment for the farmer.
Yeah, that's nice. And I think I mentioned that earlier that stacking some of these loans can be a really useful way for a farmer to get into farmland. And so it sounds like you have a good relationship with FSA and can work together to make it more accessible for the beginning farmer to get onto farmland. That's great. So if people are interested in exploring loans, can they contact you and Paul directly and go that way? Or is there some other steps that they need to do? Or
yeah, they can contact Paul and myself directly. And a lot of time, the first thing we ask for is a business/farm plan with the financial statements, along with the balance sheet, cash flow, and profit and loss. And normally that's something that was missing. We have people contact us who want to buy a piece of land, but we don't have any plan. So that's the first thing that we require, and then we'll have a discussion around that. Because one thing I tell farmers to keep in mind is that you are not only purchasing a piece of land, but there's other things that go into it too, like putting up the infrastructure. You will need a commercial water well, a shed to store equipment, machinery, building a barn for the animals, right, or fence, or put up a greenhouse to extend the season. So there's so much that goes into it, and those are additional costs. So when we say we recommend having that business plan, farm plan, it allows us to map out how much can you afford, right? And that's always the question: how much can I afford? And normally we start out with how much can you put down, right?
Right.
So, for instance, if you do a conventional loan, you're buying a piece of property for 100,000, and you have 25,000 down, and you can leverage 75,000, right?
Yeah.
And then let's say the property is 200,000, you put 50% down.
150,
And then,
yeah.
yeah. So it's pretty simple. If you don't have that much down payment available for that down payment, like I said, we can always collaborate with FSA.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I will put a screen up after this interview with your contact information so people can get directly a hold of you to learn more about the programs that you have and lending opportunities. We as navigators, part of our job is to make sure that they have the financial readiness. That's what this whole unit is about. And that includes having a business plan, a profit and loss statement, a balance sheet, because you need to know that whatever their business is, that it will generate enough income in order to service that loan. So that's great. I will funnel people right back to you, and hopefully we can get more beginning farmers on the farmland. Thanks for joining us, Si.
Can I add something real quick? Before? Yeah. One thing I share with farmer when they come to us and want to buy a piece of property, I always suggest that aside from putting that business plan, farm plan together, along with the financial, meet with the lender early and ask for a pre-qualified letter. By having that, you can shop for a realtor and work with the land navigator. And then once you have a purchase agreement in place, then can sit down and start the loan process.
Yeah, if you're going to buy a farm, it is never too early to start meeting with you or your bank or the FSA office. I mean, learn those people. They will be helpful. Even your Soil and Water Conservation District, NRCS, meet those people. They will be part of your team and will be influential in your success. So yeah, that's great advice. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right.
Right. Thanks again, Si.
You take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Welcome back. We're reaching the end of this part 3 on getting together your farmland access portfolio. If you'd like to work with one of navigators like John, myself, or the other navigators in Wisconsin and Iowa, you can go to gotfarmland.org. That redirects to renewingthecountryside.org and fill out the intake form on that page. We'll answer questions on how you would, hoping we can assist you with that access or tenure, whether it's a lease or purchase, what your goals are for farming, and briefly describing your background in farming and your timeline for getting that going. Like I said, here are the navigators in the 3 states, Kate, Amber, and Hannah in Iowa, myself, Katie, and John in Minnesota, and Jennifer and Aaron in Wisconsin. Contact information for each of us is at gotfarmland.org. And you can go there, fill out an intake, and also get those forms I talked about for keeping track of your asset management worksheets. So again, my name is Brett Olson. I work for Renewing the Countryside. And thanks to Compeer for their support of this series. And if you sign up for our email or follow us on social media, Renewing the Countryside, we'll be announcing when those live Q&A sessions will be coming up. So hope to see you then. And that's a wrap. Bye.